Well, all right, all right. Can you talk? Oh man. All right. Waiting for it to tap back in. Waiting for Stone Shades.
Mm-hmm.
Well, long time no see. Welcome back.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Yeah, I just I
Did you refill your glass?
no, I got water. I got sparkling water.
You joined the crew. All right, all right. Got the order. All right.
This has to also stay hydrated. But
Yeah,
I couldn't figure,
yeah.
I couldn't figure out what to now drink. I had the
Hmm.
Malbec and I finished that, and I was kind of teetering on what to open next, and I didn't necessarily want to continue with Malbec, and then I just decided water works, right? So let's have some water and do that. Again, I just thank you for even just letting us have this dialogue, and I'm really also super curious for. I know there were a lot of comments. I don't know if there were any questions, all thoughts, but I really enjoyed also listening and hearing and seeing some of the commentaries that were coming through on some of the different things. I mean, the things that we're speaking about, there's so many different angles and just so much depth too, right?
Hmm.
I mean, we literally could have,
Hmm.
and you know this, we've spoken about this, an entire conversation on just this navigating through corporate or understanding how to do
Hmm.
that, emotional health. And as we are literally jumping into facing a mental, emotional health pandemic of its own, just stemming from
Yeah.
what's happening in the world. I think it's so important for us to create avenues to have those conversations and speak to how this has literally exposed our lack of connection with each other
Yep.
in the world, where people are feeling so alone and so separated, right? Because social
Hmm.
media is certainly not true connection.
Right.
Connection continues that way, but not true connection. So, um, really looking forward to doing that. And I just want to say, thank you. I love you much, because I don't do this without a check.
We know. We
And
know.
this is
We know. We definitely know what's going on. We know what time it is.
um, so, but for you, anything, anytime, always. So,
And I appreciate it. I just thought that with me, this is my tenth kind of live, my tenth episode of doing these talks with people like yourself. And I would be remiss if I didn't at least ask and say, hey, will you do this, with me? So I mean, the stuff we talk about, man, I mean, is amazing. And I mean, this is years. I mean, like years of just dialogue that we have. And I say, why not give, a glimpse of what we talk about, to everybody else, man, because I believe that it could help a lot, just a lot of people. And, iron sharpens iron and we sharpen a lot, what I'm saying, for years. So I said, why not take the chance and just ask you, would you do this with me?
you
So
knew,
thank you.
culprits. Okay.
So you were giving tips, um,
Yeah.
about mental health, and so I wanted you to be able to finish those thoughts, not and now that we have the time,
Yeah.
um to finish those thoughts. So
I think you know it's interesting. I think it's very important for us to all be able to identify what that looks like, and it's not always easy to find
hmm.
out what is that thing that replenishes me. And sometimes it's first
Hmm.
understanding how do I get empty. I recall in
Right.
high school, Miss Martinez, shout out to Chelsea High School, and all my lions out there. But I remember sitting in her office
Absolutely.
one day, and she said, you give yourself to so many people, but you have to save some of you for yourself,
Mm.
That.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that, and I was probably 15. Like, okay, let me
Mm-hmm.
think on that for a minute. So I think it's really important that we understand the importance of our emotional wellness, right? So we
Yep.
talk about financial wellness, and I've done the conversations, the currency conversations, and speaking to financial wellness, and that's something else I speak to. But I really think
Mm-hmm.
there's a dedication to understanding overall wellness, and that definitely includes our emotional health and what that really
Yep.
looks like. Understanding when you feel empty, understanding
Yep.
wanting to feel loved. It's not to say I'm not loved, but sometimes I need to feel that. And just that
Mm-hmm.
Renee saying, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so
Mm-hmm.
understanding what it requires to fill your cup. And I think a lot of us also tend to have the idea that the cups that we find that we're filling, we are requiring them to fill us up. And that's not always the
Mm-hmm.
case.
Right.
I do hold the universe responsible for ensuring that it's helping me in my desire to want to have my cup filled. But I do know that where I pour over here is not necessarily going to pour back. But I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get poured. But it's noting that you give up your overflow and not what's in your cup, because you need that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you if I don't have any help to give, right? Think about
Mm-hmm.
it in terms of just something more tangible like money, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I need to literally help my family or my friends by giving them the money, or
Mm-hmm.
that's not something I do, but yes, by lending, and the lend borrow thing is not really a thing for me. I give or I don't. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have money and somebody's asking for $5 and you have 10, you give them the 5. You may not be getting the 5 from them. You may get it from elsewhere. But if you're giving all of your 10, now what? Then you have nothing to give.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a responsibility to ensure that you have what you need before you're able to give anything,
Mm-hmm.
and be mindful of that. And it's okay to say no.
Mm-hmm.
I say there was a year where I was very clear that I want to operate by really having, a confident yes and a strong no. If I'm saying yes to something, then it's a yes. And if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
doing that thing, it has to be something really big to get me out of that. But we really have to work on being just honest, true, and loving to ourselves. You have to
Mm-hmm.
love on you. That's
Yes.
the only way else to put it. That
Mm-hmm.
responsibility with ourselves, for ourselves, about ourselves is really the self-interest in ensuring that we're okay, because it's like the big thing. Latanya and I speak on this a lot. It's where when you get on the airplane, as you know, I love airplanes. You
Mm-hmm.
put your mask on first before you put anybody else's mask on, and really it's that idea of you have to make sure you secure yourself before
Yes.
anybody, children,
Mm-hmm.
whomever, right? So there is that responsibility to ourselves to put our mask on first. And for me, that work looks like self-care. That looks like spa days. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
my eyebrows and everything that's not done. But this is quarantine Stauna. Thank you. Self-care,
Mm-hmm.
travel, but really being able to identify the things that you need to do for you to replenish that part of you. And the piece about asking for what you need, I am fighting. I am in this arena for anybody who's having a problem or a challenge and really being able to ask. I am not an asking person. And I'm
Nothing
happy,
at all. Nothing.
but there's a responsibility that I'm trying to strengthen that muscle of being able to ask
Mm-hmm.
for what I need from those who are in my more immediate circle. So to be able to
Mm-hmm.
say I need a hug, it may sound regular to everybody else. It's so terrifying for me. But
Mm-hmm.
understanding there are days where I just need a hug, right? It was a hard
Mm-hmm.
day, or I need quiet,
Mm-hmm.
or I have too much quiet. I need people, or I just need to lay on the floor. And I promise you, soon it will be literally. I'm gonna bite the bullet and just book a trip. But we just have to figure out what that thing is for you, and it could be multiple things that could help
Mm-hmm.
you just feel replenished, and getting connected with that, and knowing that true connection is really ideal. I think we're walking too far away from what true connection really
Mm-hmm.
is, and relying
Mm-hmm.
very heavily on social media and things for connection. And
Right.
those things are quite superficial. And that's why we're finding the highest rates of suicide in teenagers and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature happening in our world today. So
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really important. If I could stress anything, emotional health is huge. I have a family member who is currently um, clinically depressed to a point where she has really no clear idea of where she is today. And it's
Wow.
scary. It's a deep thing in my family, and it's hard to even speak to it or even make sense of it. But to understand
Hmm.
that emotional health, not mental, right? Brain is functioning
Emotional health.
fine, but the emotional traumas, the ones where we haven't done our surgeries for ourselves, the ones where we
Yep.
haven't spoken enough of, over time, over our lifespan, could cripple us to a point where we lose our minds, literally. When you
Yep.
see people on the street,
Hmm.
you may call them crazy. Some of that is not, it's not mental where they're, they have a chemical imbalance of the sort, but it could be emotional trauma that is
Yes.
unhealed, that they're
Hmm.
walking around with to the point where they're presenting as completely out of touch with current reality. So really really huge.
Right.
We do that. Psychologists and psychiatrists, I know in our communities that that's not something that's very popular, but
Hmm.
we shouldn't be so afraid of that. We shouldn't be so afraid of that, and we
No.
need to think about, again, how do we show up as our best selves. And there's a couple different websites on just one where I think it's Black Gold Girls Therapy. I subscribe to a number of different things, but really, to get the person to talk to, I find my
Hmm.
friends are often really the greatest therapy I have, in really
Hmm.
speaking to what my experience is. But we need to do our own surgeries when we're left to, and if we can't do it ourselves, we have a requirement to ourselves to find out who can do it for us, because
Yes.
the emotional effects that we experience are huge, and we carry a lot of that as people of color.
Hmm.
We're
Yep.
carrying the pathology of
Hmm.
the emotional traumas that our
Hmm.
ancestors suffered,
Hmm.
that
Yep.
are continuing in our life today, and how we attending to that. So really super important that we address that, make it okay, and even now make it popular. Like, I see all these influences. I'm
Hmm.
like, well, what are they influencing? Let's think about that.
Right.
What is the
Right.
influence that we're seeking? And we
Hmm.
need to really seek further influence that's more helpful to our souls. Like, I
Right.
reach out to you and I'm like, how is your soul? How is your soul
And
today?
like, yo, and I swear to God, like this is real. And this is real talk, now, people. So when Stauna reached out to me and she started saying like, "How is your soul, King?" I was like, yo, nobody asked me that. Like nobody asked me that question. But like she asked me that question of like, yo, how is your soul? How are you feeling? And that's such a difference of, oh, how was your day? Right? Like that's a typical how was your day. But like when she asked me that, sometimes it makes you stop and think and say, yo, wait a second. How is my soul today? Am I just running and running and running? Am I just going and going and going? Like how is Terrence in here?
Right.
So that's something that thank you for that too, because I need it all the time, man. Thank you. And a lot of it, as far as self-help and self-love, and emotional freedom, that comes with vulnerability too. Because a lot of times we expect or we ask for forgiveness from other people, but when you're vulnerable with yourself, you'll be able to forgive yourself and be open with yourself so that you can sleep better at night, maybe for the transgressions that you did or the mistakes that you did or that you made. And it's to me, it's very important that we forgive ourselves first of all the things that we feel shame of. You know what I'm saying? So
Going there.
that's something that I just wanted to just touch on right quick.
You're going there, right? You're going there because
Yeah.
the questions are the answers. You will
Hmm.
find that if you're reading a book, right, and you often may not retain a lot of the information if you don't have questions about what the book is really speaking to, because
Hmm.
the questions are the answers. The question
Hmm.
themselves what leads us to the answer. When we're thinking about half of the things that we're trying to get clarity about, right,
Right.
and digging through, and you speak so much about vulnerability, and as much as I love it, I hate it. um,
Hmm. Hmm.
Going into our souls, and how we're treating our souls. And when I ask that question, I'm really wanting to know how that really is. And we
Hmm.
there's this thing that sometimes is really kind of getting to me a little bit. We're quick to answer, how are you? I'm good. I'm fine.
Hmm. Hmm.
And really to say, wait, let's get away from that piece. I really want to know how you're doing, And then it's because a lot of us are not really prepared for the responses that we will get for the how are you doing? Because maybe how I'm doing is really, really a big answer. It's really a big answer that are you ready to sit with that? And I have to think about, is this a place, because vulnerability is big, but we have to be responsible in our vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lay it out on just anybody. And then we can go into the separation of guilt and shame.
Yep.
What is that?
So much of it.
What is shame and what is guilt, right? The shame being based on some of the research from Brene, shame being something like I am bad versus guilt being I did something bad. And even how we do that with our kids in saying you're bad, you're wrong, like really having a person own this part and this feeling that they should not own. Is a separation in doing something wrong or bad. I don't really, respond to right and wrong, so you know this. But really thinking through what is the difference between I did something wrong and I am wrong.
Right.
I'm really not letting somebody own that. But the other piece that I am always mindful and scary about is how we try to push positivity so much that we deny what we're feeling. Like I was saying,
of course.
Like, oh, blessed and good. Yes, we are all blessed, but it's okay to own that I don't feel so great today. It's okay to hear and own what your experience is. And I selfishly give permission to myself every time for all of the feelings that I am feeling, good, bad, or indifferent. And I know that they don't make me who I am. I don't own them as in I am X, but I am experiencing this right now, right? It's so important to make that distinction of deciding what we're experiencing versus what we are.
And it's funny because I was doing a live yesterday and my boy reminded me of a post that I wrote. He said that hit him crazy. And he was like, yo, T, you wrote something the other day and you said that, that we're so dysfunctional that we will good ourselves to death.
Correct.
And I was like,
imagine.
Oh yeah, I did right there.
I'm good. I'm okay. Like, and for me, I am so not necessarily when I'm asking that, that when I ask how you feeling, how is your soul, I really want to know what is your experience? What does that feel like today? Because it may not be good. And if I know it's not so good, let me infuse some of that into you. Let me infuse some of let me that life into you that you may need to really help you get through to the other end.
Know.
Never invalidated or denying what your experience is, right? And
that
goes to the understanding of sympathy versus empathy and saying, I'm not feeling sorry, right? But I can understand what it feels like to feel that way because I've been there. And so I empathize that feeling and to say, how can I support you in this? Because if it's sitting here with you in it and helping you until you're ready to get out, or is it really sitting here giving you some positive words so you could help pull yourself out of it? But I think it's important that we stay true to yourself because you're best at being you, always, right? You're unique, ready to be the beings that we are. And you're best at being you, so own that. And own that if you're having a bad day. Yes, I'm having a bad day. It feels horrible. I feel like I'm drowning. It's overwhelming. Work was hard today. Yes, I could deal with it, or there's a lot of stuff going on. And so being able to own that and knowing that not everybody holds that, but we should have circles that can. And so for all my friends who are on here, just know when I'm asking that, I'm not shying away from the truth of your experience. I'm leaning into the truth of your experience so that we could ride that together to come out of it.
Right. And it shows the difference in just asking different questions too. There's a question from Black Eyes 23. He said mental health isn't a topic often discussed or taken seriously in the African American community. Now I touched on this yesterday, and it's true. Mental health a lot of times isn't taken seriously in our community because we're in denial, and we come from, and I'll just speak for me and what I've seen. We come from a generation of, we'll just pray everything away. We just gonna pray everything away, or we just gonna pray about it and do nothing about it. So we just gonna sit there and like your grandmama told you she gonna pray everything away. Your mama told you that she gonna pray everything away. They tell you to go speak to your pastor and everything is gonna be okay. And the truth is, listen, as a Christian or whatever it is, whoever it is that you pray to, pray. If nothing wrong with that, I'm not saying that you pray but faith without works is dead. So you pray and then you do the work. So it's God has also placed these therapists in your path that
Right.
you can utilize
Right.
to get you the help that you need.
Right.
So we have to get away from that generational dysfunction and that generational rhetoric of just pray everything away and God is going to make everything in the blink of an eye, everything is going to
You
be
know,
okay. Because you'll find yourself years and years and years in a depressive state and nothing has changed.
the
So
devil
yes, prayer
did
is
it.
good.
The devil did
Huh?
it. Then
Oh, that is the perfect one. The
I have
devil did it, and you just got to pray it away. And that's like very toxic. And it's like, yes, we get it, and there's a space for prayer. Believe me, I get it. But you also have to do the work on you. Like we've got to get away from this whole old school dysfunctional generational rhetoric that I absolutely hate. And it's just that's all we can do in life is just this one thing. But we
yeah,
don't have to put in the work.
right.
We
We
don't
have,
got to put in the work.
we have to get uncomfortable. We have to get uncomfortable, and I believe growth happens in uncomfortable spaces.
Hmm.
Because as you're saying that piece where people say, "Oh, I'll pray for you," is this to say somehow just praying for you makes it better? People will pray for you
Hmm.
before they be there for you. They'll pray for you
Hmm.
before they show up for you, right? And so it's
Hmm.
like I'm gonna leave you here in your dysfunction, in crying, whatever you're experiencing, but I'm gonna go over here
Hmm.
and pray for you, and that absolves everything. Um,
Right.
you know, I have a much bigger view of God, the soul of the universe,
Hmm.
you know, the traditional view of it. And so definitely sits strong in the understanding that, you know, we pray for strength, we pray for guidance, we pray for directions. And if we're
Yep.
creating the image, then we ourselves are creators. And so being left to create and to exercise our faith in creating what we would like to see is often where we stop
Hmm.
because we're waiting for it to be done for us rather than acting, rather than doing.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think, you know, we're missing some opportunities of really engaging with that power source of ours, really to help
Hmm.
us define and get to where we need to be. Because as you said,
Hmm.
to that quote, faith without works is dead. What are you saying? You're speaking up and being,
Right.
but you're not doing. And
Right.
so I think you find a new
Hmm.
space of the generation of us really looking for, we need the works.
Hmm.
We need the works
Right.
to
And
that faith
right.
in knowing how to do.
Hmm. And we have to stop, and I believe to a certain point that, listen, whatever happens in this house stays in this house. But
Mm-hmm.
we've taken that and we've put it on steroids to where we don't take anything, saying outside of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? We don't go to therapy. We don't seek the help. We don't talk to our friends. We don't do a lot of these things because it's, you know what? Everything is just about take it to the pastor, take it to the church, take it to the Lord, take it to your mama, or just keep it inside this confined space and don't tell anybody anything because of it's in this house, stays in this house. No, because what's in this house is staying in this house and it's destroying our families and it's destroying our communities and it's destroying generations. And this is the problem because we have been taught the same way for so many different years. And
Generation.
it's like something has got to give and something has got to change.
Right.
And
It's like
we
you
are
look
the ones to do
at
that.
what we had about community and really understanding what that means, right? And that separation.
Hmm.
I talk about neighborhoods and communities. And have we really created community? Because too often you're taught not to share, not to lend it in,
Hmm.
rather than being
Yep.
responsible on who you share with, when you share, and understanding,
Right.
you know what? So often we have been left, if you look at the cultures around us, and we're thinking about Black culture and other cultures around us, right? And this push
Hmm.
that we consistently have to go it alone, to do it on our own.
Yep.
Let me say this.
Yep.
As I'm here thinking about creating that community, that tribe of young women, young Black women in corporate America and
Hmm.
that support system, I'm not looking to
Hmm.
do it alone. I'm not looking to grow it alone. I'm really looking for a tribe to help build it together. There's no,
Right.
you know, any accolade and say you created this thing or what have you. And so often we're trying to go it alone because we're taught hold this, keep it safe, hold it for yourself, and not expand it. This is why we're not often pulling people into these conversations, into these rooms that we're entering, because
Hmm.
no, you don't share that. And somehow we
Hmm.
have to get away from that and understanding in building and growing. going together is going best.
Right. And a lot of times it's, you know what? He has to go through what I went through. Like he has to pay his dues like I have to pay my dues.
Right.
Like, wait a second, time out. That's in different cultures they bring people up.
Fine.
You know what I'm saying? And they don't make the other person go through everything that they had to
Right.
go through. But for us, it's just like, oh, we got to make this person go through what
Right.
what we went through. Why do I want you to feel what I went through?
What is that mentality? What is that? What is it
It,
about? Right.
mm-hmm.
And for me, even when I think often, I share this with some of the people I know, where it's so important for me to say, you know what, when I think about the things that are, if I knew then what I know now, knowing it in my
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm going to give it to you in your then, so that your now
Yes.
is so different than mine. And we're just not
Right.
owning responsibility. And it goes back to all of what we just been talking about, where, it's not praying anything away. It's really the
Mm-hmm.
action. Love is action. Love is not a thing
Yep.
that you just kind of, it just sits up in some picture or some odd, right? It's an action item.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're loving
Yep.
somebody, what you're doing is, how do you love? How do you give? How do you act in that space? And we're doing
Mm-hmm.
ourselves a service in that way. And we need to take greater accountability for just that piece.
200%. Um, so so when it comes to mental health, um, in our youth, within our youth, because now we're living in times where, it's, like you said, it's unprecedented times, right? We went through COVID, kids haven't been able to graduate. Kids now, we went from not being able to, they're not being able to see their friends in school, and things like that. How would you, like, what would you tell somebody who's maybe 10 years old right now? Like, what would you tell them? Like they're seeing the civil unrest. They're going through COVID. They may not go back to school right on time. School's gonna look different. Like, what type of tools would you give somebody who's maybe 10 years old right now? Who's looking at life and saying, man, 2020 is a lot, and it is a lot.
2020 is a lot. I would affirm that 150%. What we're experiencing in the world is a lot. What we're exposed
Hmm.
to and we're in the awareness of is a lot. It's not new. All of what we're experiencing has happened before, and we've persevered, and we'll continue to do so.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
the challenge too is that in all of our experiences that we've had and our elders have had, and what they have succumb and come past and really thrived through, we don't give enough light to that. So again, going back to the know thyself and understanding that through all the challenge, the trials, that we triumph. And what does that look like?
Right.
So I'm usually so very big on character building. So when I look
Hmm.
at the kids, the 10-year-olds, and you're kind of pulling me, like, if I had a 10-year-old child, what would I say to
Or a
my
student,
child?
yeah, or cousin, sisters, whoever.
I got for my hearts. Um,
Hmm.
Really, one, feel that feeling, what you're feeling,
Hmm.
standing in
Hmm.
it, sitting in it. I'm here to help you navigate through it, understanding
Hmm.
that you have support in it, talking through
Hmm.
experiences, and at the same time infusing in them the strength of their being to create
Hmm.
change, to identify
Hmm.
how they move through. Because I often will say things like, change is our only constant, right? It's the only
Hmm.
thing we have constantly happen in every space that we're in. And if
Hmm.
you are resisting change or fighting it, it really means it's already happened. So what is the best way to navigate through it? It's really understanding, how can I make change work for me? How can I make this
Right.
thing happening work for me? So yes, COVID happened and we're home, right? And I'm not in school and I'm in the house. How can I make this work for me? And when I think about, my
Hmm.
eldest goddaughter and how she's used that to really say things like, she's getting more time to do her work. So she's finding it more successful in that she has more time to think through and complete her work, right? So really
Hmm.
finding where is the opportunities in all things, as a measure of just how we do business. Because this has happened now. It's not to say it can happen again, or that we won't see worse or we won't see better. So really thinking
Right.
through how our perception of what we're experiencing is really going to be big, right? So how do you
Mm.
perceive what you're experiencing, and being able to channel what you can gain and what you can grow, what you can build, the positive pieces that you could take from this thing, are going to be
Mm-hmm.
essential to your resilience. We have to work at
Mm-hmm.
being at building, resilient minds, thoughtful minds, and
Mm-hmm.
thinking minds, because I find often we are sitting in a space where we're dealing with being told what we should think, and we are having more and more the inability to think ourselves, like how to think,
Mm-hmm.
how to get
Mm-hmm.
information and make sense of it, how to logically discern what we can really use to take forward, and being stuck in people telling us, well, here's what this is, and really just owning that. So we really have to
Mm-hmm.
start to work to help our kids learn how to think and not just what to think. When I see some
Mm-hmm.
of, and I chuckle, but when I see some of the social media influences I don't know, like I'm more so on Twitter than anything else than any of the other,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, what does this person do? Like, what is the story? And these are the kids, the people our kids gravitate to. What are they being taught? What are they being taught that
Mm-hmm.
they're holding on to? So really saying, when I'm teaching you, and I'm so very, very, very proud of my goddaughter, the eldest one, Zai, in that, she really is able to discern and think through what, no, this doesn't make sense, or yeah, nah, I don't like that, rather than just accepting what's given. Because that's where I
Right.
think we're really having a hard time, when we're finding so much of our people are more acting like sheep than acting like shepherds. And don't get me wrong, we
Right.
all need to be led, but we really have to learn or start reintroducing the idea of how to think rather than what to think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a
Right.
big challenge. So it's really helping that young mind um, develop that piece and strengthen that space.
Mm-hmm. So, and speaking of like the home and children and stuff like that, I've always said Operation Heal Our Homes, huh?
I don't got kids, sir, so
Oh no, well that's what I was getting to is whether it be your children or whether it be community, is Operation Heal Our Homes and Heal Our Community, right?
yeah.
And I think um, if I could just share, a story for a second. My dad wasn't a talker too much. He grew up in Aiken, South Carolina, and they didn't allow a lot of talking. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times he kind of brought that energy too with raising me, right? And my mom was the one who always gave me the permission to communicate and to express and to be vulnerable. But the one thing that my dad taught me was presence. The value of presence was immense, and not just for me as his son, because he was at every game, every practice, right? Anything that I was involved with, parent teacher conferences, whatever the case was, like I can never say my dad wasn't there and very active in my life, right? But also he was there for the kids in the neighborhood too, right? I've had friends of mine that tell me, man, I remember when your dad used to come pick me up from practice and take me home. You know what I'm saying? When I didn't have a dad, right? You know what I'm saying? He would take me to parties and things like that. So I think whether you're a father figure, whatever it is, I think that it's very important to be very present in your community, even if it's not your kids or even if you don't have kids, to get involved, right? And I think it's super important because I think it was about 6, 7 years ago, I opened up an article, right, in the newspaper, and I read about an assistant coach who had, some inappropriate pictures of his basketball, players, right? And when I looked at that, right, it was one of my old assistant coaches
Wow.
that I had 20 years before when I was 8 or 9 years old. And he got arrested for that,
Wow.
right? And you know what that brought me back to? My dad being present, my dad not missing a practice. Any tournament that I went and I had to travel for, he was there and he was taking kids with him. That wasn't his own. And that taught me, and I said, man, that could have been me. Like, but at the time, I had no worries because my dad was there
Yeah.
and he was a pillar in the community. Like he would take me to parties at 17 years old. I hated it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I hated it. 17 years old, I was about the women. Hey, listen, hey. And he would get up out of his bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and pick me up because he was like, because you don't know what's gonna happen in these streets, and you don't know what's gonna happen with the police. So my dad said less, but he did a lot more. And so it's so important to me to always be present in the community, whether they're kids, they're my kids, whether they're not my kids. But to me, I don't want to share that because I felt like that's valuable for people out there who maybe have children, who are active in the community, or for people who don't. But just your presence matters. Your presence is so important. Um, and just do the work. Don't be afraid to really just do the work and get out there and get with these kids because you don't know whose life you're saving.
Mm.
Because when I look back at it, that could have been me. I could have been a victim of some of those crimes. It's true. It's truthfully crimes, right? That happened like with these kids, these young boys. And that could have been me. But my dad said, no, it could never be you. So I just want to just, I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but I just wanted to say that.
Like
Um,
so that was an important point to call into being, that whether or not you are gifted with the opportunity to be a father and a dad, that does not prevent you from showing up. And it goes back to, again, some of many talks that you've had and that I've listened to with other prominent people in your conversations about community and what that looks like,
mhm,
and how we need to really build and create community with ourselves, to say that, you know what, you had that in your dad, but imagine the importance of that even for folks who may not have had their dad there, but they had your dad
mhm.
there. The difference maketh.
Yeah, yeah. And so like he just didn't care about me. And it's funny because when I did the live for Father's Day and I did the special live celebrating fathers, one of the guys that came on and he was like, "Yo, T, my father wasn't there, but your father took care of me whenever I was out, just like he took care of you."
Yeah.
And he said that taught me to do the same thing for, because now he has a son, and he was like, that taught me to do the same thing for my son. And I
Yeah.
was just like, man, you know what I'm saying? That's just amazing. And he was like, your father didn't have to do that, but he cared about more than just you. He cared about the community. You know what I'm saying?
And
And to me, that was powerful.
that's why I think
Um,
that we don't diminish the role of fathers and men in our
the
communities,
homes.
in our lives.
Hmm.
You and I have touched on that, in how we are not really doing the service enough to recognize the importance of that role. Period.
Hmm.
You hear this from me all the time. I love my parents. They're fantastic people.
Hmm.
I am very thankful to the both of them for all they've instilled with me. But I absolutely recognize the difference of what I get from my father and what I get from my mom, and having my
Yeah,
dad
yeah.
is the difference. I've gone through breakups where I'm just like, I don't need you. I got my dad. Like I stand
Yeah.
very proudly in that, where he's my person. And
Hmm.
that's okay. And so the importance of us having both these polarizing figures of what is the masculine energy and the feminine energy that we all have in us, demonstrated
Hmm.
for us in real life, is so huge to show up.
Hmm.
This period.
And I think, like Ice 23 said, I felt that losing my father changed my life. And then my good friend Dira said, losing a dad definitely changes your whole being. And, I know, because me and her have had conversations of, just losing our fathers. And my dad passed in 2016, but, he left me such um, a legacy, and so many gems, that I got from him, that I can sit here and have these conversations today. And when you lose a parent, and a father, um, it does change you. It changed me. In different ways. But it's like I said, you have to have a village of people to help you out. So it's like for me, I need to help processing that whole thing, and I'm appreciative to my friend Jira, who helped me out a lot with that because it changes you a lot, and sometimes people don't understand unless it's happened to them and they don't really get it. You know what I'm saying? They just go, the whole thing, I'll pray for you. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, all right, cool. But there's a lot more that you need. There's a whole lot to unpack. There's a lot of unresolved things that you go through, So for anybody who's lost a family member, I would truly, or parent especially, or grandparent, or whoever, I would truly encourage you to go seek help, seek counseling, or have a friend or find a friend that's gone through it and fellowship with them. You know what I'm saying? Because that really truly can help you through the fog um, of even depression or confusion or whatever it is, or the different emotions that you feel is not normal. You'll find that it's normal, you
Yeah.
know, and just understand that that grief is real and triggers can happen at any moment, and that's okay.
Right.
You know, so don't think that you're alone. Don't think that it's weird. You know what I'm saying? Grief is a hell of a thing, and it can hit at any time.
Yeah. And
And
I
you
touched on,
know, so yeah.
you were
Hmm.
talking about just some of those facts surrounding that, right? Like
Hmm.
really not a time frame. You know what I mean? Like
No.
some expectations that people have. Well, it's been like 10 years. You should, there's really not a time frame. I don't think anybody gets to really tell you what that looks like or understand what that looks like. And I know for everybody that's a different
Hmm.
experience on how we deal with grief, and
Hmm.
where it takes us and how we address it, and how when it's unaddressed, what that could linger and be. And so you do have people who, it's been 20, 30 years that they've gone through that tragic experience
Yes.
and still having not had the opportunity to really walk through it, because it's so interesting. And I hear this often. I had one of my employees who recently had a passing and was struggling with just what to do and how to do that, and not having the time to grieve because immediately was left to figure things out. I got to think about these,
Yeah.
the house and this and that. And so
Hmm.
we often don't find that life often allows for the space and time enough to really even deal with some of the challenges that come with that, and there's not a real true end date, and the
Hmm.
idea that life isn't the same, and figuring out what that normal would be like and what it is. And so just
Hmm.
being respectful and mindful of that at the same
Yeah. And Lady B said my father passed away 24 years ago, and it's still tough. And my homegirl Dira said, um, she's pushing 20 years next year, and some days feel like 1 year. It's very hard. And mind you, if I kept the same mentality that we spoke about earlier, about just keeping things in home, and you know what I'm saying, what stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house, I would have never reached out to her and said, hey, like, do you have any type of advice? Like, talk about this, because I know, like, you lost, you know what I'm saying? Because not many people really don't know what to say. People don't really know how to act sometimes. It can be awkward for them. So it's like when you know somebody who has gone through it, you know what I'm saying? Use your resources. You know what I'm saying? Because that could mean the difference of you going into a depressive state or you going towards managing it better. And if you don't have anybody that's within your circle that can help you, then go to grief counseling. Find somebody in your local area. Take it seriously,
time.
because grief is very real, and it can bring you into a really bad space in life, in all aspects of your life. It could affect you at work, could affect your relationship, it could affect your walk with God. It could affect everything, and it's something that should be taken seriously. So I just want to encourage you guys that if you're going through something, don't keep it inside. Don't keep it at home. You know what I'm saying? Definitely share and open up yourself. Be vulnerable, because it's only going to help you.
Yeah, we got to
Um,
look at
you know,
vulnerability as a weakness, right? I think it's for so many of the things that we experience that are challenging, and it just feels like you have to be strong. And there's always that thing, got to be strong,
mhm,
whatever that's supposed to mean, and really not identifying strength in being vulnerable, strength in actually looking for connectivity with someone else who has it, and somehow asking for help. And I speak for myself as far as just sitting in that and fighting through that battle, as well, in the challenge of asking for help. Just the idea of asking for help feels like I'm weak, or I'm not strong enough, or something to that end. And so somehow we have to do ourselves the honor of fighting the narrative of feeling that vulnerability is being weak. Asking for help is meaning that we're weak and that we're not strong enough. And just some of those things that have just been embedded through conversations and just generations of just Nope, you just eat it up, you just hold it all, and you just keep pushing and be strong. And
Hmm.
being strong can have a really different meaning when you understand that. You know,
Yeah.
getting help, asking for help, speaking out, speaking up, and really leaning in, right, is
Hmm.
really so much more helpful than anything else. Else we're just sitting in our hurt continuously, and we're not growing, we're not building, we're not
Hmm.
progressing, and that's certainly not helpful to us.
Hmm. So Black Guy said he's never had that type of relationship with somebody, and he said like his dad told him, don't, you know, crying is for girls, and the man always handles issues on his own. Well, let me tell you about that, bro. To be honest with you, a lot of us were brought up like that. My dad brought me up like that too, to a certain point, but my mom totally combated that. It was like, no, that's not the right way. And I'm gonna tell you, stress is real. Emotional dysfunction and turmoil is real, and that can have really adverse effects on your health. My mom had a brain aneurysm because she was too stressed out. There are people who are having heart attacks because they don't let it out. Like, don't think because you don't let it out that you're dealing with it on your own, because you're not. A lot of times that we think that we can handle things on our own, we can't handle it on our own. We're just sweeping it under the rug. And it's building up, it's building up, it's gonna build up, and it's gonna come out one way or another. Now with that, it could be your health. That's one of the biggest things. Heart attack, cancer, brain aneurysms, all of those things can be attributed to what you have going on in here, because you're trying to deal with it yourself, and you don't have the capabilities of dealing with it with yourself. There are certain things that's too hard for us to bear, but our egos tell us that
Ego.
we can put everything on our backs and just go and carry and carry and carry until your body tells you you
You're like a
can't do it anymore.
right.
Listen, bro, listen. I'm gonna just say one thing. If you need somebody to talk to, you can hit me up. I'm here. I'm a brother. I don't know you, but I'm a brother. This is what we do. There's no shame. There's no pride and ego with me. I'll give it to you straight. I'm 100. Like, I don't care about no egos. No, man. Like, I have to be this way. I don't have to be any way but me, bro. I'm here for you. Whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to talk, I'm here. Like, there's no egos, bro. It's not gonna go nowhere. But between me and you, and this is what we have to do with each other. You know what I'm saying? We have to change the narrative about being emotional is for women, because men are dying at an early age because of this same rhetoric.
Right.
Men die from colon cancer because they don't want to get a test because it's feminine, because the test they feel is feminine. Like, we've got to get away from this narrative, bro. So listen, I'm here for you, bro, and I'm extending the olive branch to you, man, because it's totally necessary. And I'm gonna leave some of the talk because I probably just talk too much.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. That's brilliant. I think it's important for us to know we have support and we have community, and while we fight against the gremlins that really will tell us we're inadequate or we're not strong enough or holding this in and building this stress and carrying everything on our shoulders is what makes us strong. Um, we have to work on understanding that that's different and that's not really true, and the things that we've been told don't hold truth to them all the time, right?
Yeah.
That build something.
Nope.
Um, because I saw a lot of the note that stress skills. I mean, it literally.
It kills physically.
I can say that I physically have manifested stress in my life that I felt and and didn't understand. Even like went to doctors and the doctor was just like, so you're just gonna go to all the other doctors so they can tell you the same thing. So we have to be mindful of that and how to do that, and it takes a bravery. It takes a bravery and a courage
Hmm.
to be vulnerable and really speak to how our ego gets in the way and allows for stress to happen that could really kill us, right? And
Hmm.
rather
Yeah.
else that we have to one speak to this, we have to stop being afraid to speak about it. We have to
Hmm.
stop being afraid to own it. We have to not be shy about it, right? Like I can
Hmm.
certainly raise my hand and speak boldly to some of the challenges. And sometimes the vulnerability is like you don't want people to know. But it's not about
Hmm.
people knowing if it's saying, you know what, I'm in it too. I'm in this arena too. I'm fighting the same battle too. And while it may appear
Hmm.
something different, understand that I'm here. I'm with you. And it's not I'm feeling sorry.
Hmm.
It's not a sympathy. It's an empathy of understanding as human beings we're all in these fights, and every person that you're meeting at any single day, any single time, is fighting battles that you have no idea about, even ourselves, because while we even share a lot, there's so much happening in our heads that we're not even sharing, that we're just holding on to, just trying to figure out, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how I'm gonna do this. Like I compartmentalize.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta put everything in this little box in my head, and okay, I'm gonna open this box and deal with this now.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's dealing with it in different ways. And some people, it's like jumbled up noise, and it's not in a
Mm-hmm.
box. But when we're meeting each other, we're just kikiing and laughing and not having these real conversations about what we're experiencing and truly being there to help,
Mm-hmm.
honor, grow, and understand each other. That's where true friendship, true partnership, true build
Mm-hmm.
happens. And we're not doing
Mm-hmm.
enough of that, right? We're having too many surface conversations that we're not really helping grow each other, except for just very, very surface. So for me, it's if I
Yes, so
step out and own all of my
mm-hmm.
crap, all of the muddy, the things that we don't want to see, because it can resonate for somebody else and help me in understanding what is happening there too, then that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do for each other. So I commend.
And and to go with that, it's like 8 years ago, I remember telling my mom, I said, Mom, I said, I see you out here. You're really working a lot. I said, and you're stressing out about a lot of stuff. I said, you're holding it in. I said, you're trying to conquer the world. I said, you got to stop and take a breath, take a breather. I said, because this can really do damage on you. Right. And then one day I meet her somewhere. We hang out. Then I leave. Half hour later, I get a phone call and they're like, yo, your mom is sick. Something's really wrong with her. I go back to rush to her. Long story short, she was having a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
What do you think that equates to? Like, and it's like we have to call it out too. Like whether it be your mom, your dad, your grandmother, your friends, your aunts, your uncles, when they're doing something or that you can see, it's like there's no more hierarchy of elder. It's like, nah, I have to tell you that you're doing these that you're going about it the wrong way, whether they listen to you or not. Sometimes it'll take 5 times, sometimes it'll take 10. But if you open your mouth and tell them, hey, listen, I see you going down the wrong path. I know you're a little older than me, but I see you going down the wrong path. Please change. Like if you need help, I'm here for you as well. Because our elders are very stubborn.
We know
You know
that.
what I'm saying? Our friends, a lot of times, they can, they're a little bit more open, but our elders, they're a little bit more stubborn. You know what I'm saying? And thankfully, she survived, but sometimes that's your body telling you, dog, you're doing too much.
Oh,
And
our
you
bodies
broke
are
me down to the point of almost death.
right.
And sometimes it'll take that to happen to people for them to really get it and say, okay, I can't be the same way. Because her thing was, oh, well, that's just me. That's in my DNA. And it's just like, nah, like sometimes what's in your DNA got to change. You know what I'm saying? Like that just can't be your answer for everything. Oh, well, that's just the way I am. No, change. You can change. Be better for yourself.
Even
Please.
when
You know what I'm saying?
change is our only constant is the one thing we're often fighting
Mm-hmm.
against. We have a question here. I'll let you have that at this point in
I
your
can't
life.
even see it.
What would each of you tell your 21-year-old self? What does your wisdom tell you? What would you say to your 21-year-old self? As I think back on my 21-year-old self.
Oh, man. Oh, my 21-year-old self. Oh, man. I think I would tell myself, oh, man, to be more mindful um, of I would say my finances. That's number one. I was out there partying a lot. I was out there buying too many bottles when I was 21. I think I would tell myself, number one, to begin journaling at an earlier age. That's truthfully, begin journaling at an earlier age. Um, Learning how to de-stress at an earlier age. Um, Going to counseling at an earlier age. Um, those are 3 things that I think I would absolutely tell myself at an earlier age, because these are things that I really started to do in my late 20s, going towards 30. I really started taking my mental health seriously, but if I could look at my 21-year-old self, I would have told myself, hey, start doing more self-care, more self-love at an earlier age, and start learning how to tell people no at an earlier age. I am going on 36 and I have a hard time with telling people no. I do. And but that's me. That's my thing. Um, but I never told anybody no. If you need to start from me, it was always yes. So I think for me, that's what I would tell people. Um, that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. I was as you were speaking, I was listening, but I was also thinking about 21 and trying to recall what that was.
Whew,
Um,
man, 21. So
yeah,
golden years.
imagine, yeah. I remember what Unique did to me at 21, but that's a whole different story. At 21,
Mhm.
um,
Just keep track of time. We got about
few minutes.
under 4 minutes left. It's
All right,
crazy.
21-year-old self, I would say, give yourself permission to feel.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
to feel. I think for me, a lot of my challenges with emotion,
Hmm.
um, understanding the strength of vulnerability,
Hmm.
asking for help, asking for help when you need it, knowing
Yeah.
that not weakness, that that's necessary.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I think many things kind of lie in that for me. It was, I think I'm still working on pieces of myself where it's really more so with dealing with the emotions. It's really emotions for me that I have a hard work with. The school and etc. come easy, but dealing with the emotions of what I'm feeling, being able to honor them and really
Hmm.
recognize what they are and what they call for and what they need. That's the struggle. So getting into the work, doing your work,
Yes.
and unlearning and
Hmm.
understanding the pieces that I built, whatever barriers, whatever walls, to help me get to 21.
Yes.
I didn't need them that they wouldn't serve me well to continue on.
Hmm.
So really
Yep.
starting now at 30 to understand that these barriers, and I'm having revelations ever so often of this is what I did. This note from this time when this person said. So I'll give you a quick anecdote. One of my cousins was dating somebody, treating her unwell, and he said, "Once you have a girl, you have her head." And I was clearly
Hmm.
determined to never give a person my heart so that they wouldn't have
Hmm.
my head. And so there was this
Yeah.
barrier to anybody having my heart because I don't want it to have my head and
Hmm.
be that stupid girl, if you will. And
Hmm.
understand that served me for a time, but then doesn't serve me going forward. And so being able to find that um,
Hmm.
sooner is what I would
Right.
give myself. Sure.
Perfect. Um, listen, listen. We can go on for a longer time, but I think that will be it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do another one. Maybe on relationships. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. Send me the budget.
Sure.
Um, um, but again, thank you for doing this
Thank
with me. Um, I thought this was an amazing conversation. Um, you are amazing. You are one of a kind. You are a gem to this world and a gem to my life and to the people that you touch. Um, I love you, Queen. Thank you very much for this. I think this was a great moment for everybody. And keep being great. Keep doing the great things that I know that you're going to continue to do. And I appreciate you so much for the role you play in my life. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Well, I thank you for one allowing me to have this dialogue with you, with everybody else. I know we do this all the time. I honor you. I thank you so much for being all that you are and all that you continue to be, and your strive and your drive to be a better version of yourself and to give to the world and to continue to have these conversations with varying people. I thank you for it, and I look forward to more. And I thank everybody for joining in and just really being here
Yes,
and
thank you.
looking forward to being able to speak to everybody about so many different things, so many topics. But let's keep striving. Let's keep building. Let's keep growing, knowing who we are and the royalty that we represent and the strength that we
Hmm.
have, and really taking our lives forward and just being the better versions of ourselves, because there's nothing better than being who we are.
Perfect ending. We got 5 seconds. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Keep being great.